I am
Sorry.
those days I am mind blown. How you say it, but by the pervasive nature of the belief in materialism, the materialism belief and the materialism um, perception of experience. It's just it goes. It's like it's everywhere. You know, when you undo one layer, you go deeper, and this belief's still there. And I'm very impressed by this, how deep it is.
What are you calling the materialist perception of experience?
Uh, I think in philosophy it's called realism. It's like it's a belief that there is physical objects out there, and there is an entity. Are we here like a camera, right? And the camera, and there is some light somewhere, and the light hit object. The light goes into the camera, and there is something inside the camera, which is maybe a brain that is dealing with the information, and it is providing with an experience. So experience is kind of the produce of different objects interconnected, and this experience is kind of produced somewhere inside an object, which we call a brain. You see? So it's
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
um, so this is when you start to really see this and explore the implication of it, and how false it is. If you compare with my when I compare it my direct experience, how false this map and this understanding is. And it's going and the confusion starts, I see with people when that I'm guiding, starts almost directly. Like when I say explore your experience, they are starting their exploration from this belief. So they're already, okay, there's object out there. I am in here, and I will start to explore some kind of mental thing, but it has nothing to do with object. It's everything to do with just the brain moving and thing happening in this thing. So it's very interesting.
Mm. Yeah, maybe it could be described not so much as a materialist perspective, it could be described as a scientific perspective because it's obsessed with explaining how. And of course the reality is that what that is just a story that may be useful or not useful. And if it gets in the road of experience, then it's not useful. But it
Yeah.
has a place, but it is just a story, right? Because obviously we can't experience any of those individual elements.
No, we can't, but the thing it gets in the way of experience only in the sense that we put we give to the word experience a very, very narrow impact on our day-to-day life. Like, oh yeah, okay, there's non-duality, there's all beautiful understanding, but this is just, a spirituality, or it's something that has nothing to do with paying bills, my relationship, my everyday life.
Mm,
And this is kind of the difficulty I see with this belief and how deep it goes.
mm,
And somehow it has layers, and that's I think that's where maps come from, because um, yeah, at first we said there is thinking, and so you focus on thinking, and after you say, but okay, there is thinking, but there is a me. So then you start to explore the me, what is this entity that is supposedly here? And after you say, but after there is a body, right? So there is sensation. So you start to explore this, and in each field of exploration, you can see that this belief is It's everywhere. It's kind of seemingly holding everything together.
Yeah, it seems to me that that takes us away from a very, very fundamental thing, that what we experience can't actually be described or explained. And any movement towards doing that is just dross. It's just extra shit on top of reality. Now it may have a place in order to get to recognize that there is something underneath all of that. And if it gets in the road of doing that, then something's gone wrong. The only reason to even go there is to arrive at the very, very fundamental, basic fact that all there is experience.
Yeah. But I think if you use the word scientific, and scientific, it's as I understand it, it's very practical. It's like you see something and you make and there is an understanding out of it, right? So I think we can use very scientific method in our direct experience to see the validity of what we believe. And I think in that way this can be helpful. Like if I believe I am Swiss, for example, I am from Switzerland, right? Of course, I have a passport, I'm born there, and all of this story. But this is the easiest layer. But when you start to inquire and explore, you find what you say. So you find only the activity of thinking, only the phenomena of thinking, which is an experience, which is just here somehow. And that's what I'm saying, that there is those kind of seemingly layers, like, okay, so if I'm not Switzerland, well, then who am I? I'm this, and you explore whatever come up, and you say, oh, it's not that, and you start to just slowly dive into the rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm. So a very practical issue that's been brought to my attention that we encounter with, I dare say, most people who have just seen through the delusions of self, etc., is that they're still imagining that what their mind is saying, what their thoughts say, is the content of their thoughts is an actual experience. So for example, and this is a really big issue for lots and lots of people, and the resolution of it is somewhat subtle, and that is that somebody recognizes quite clearly that there is no self. They recognize quite clearly that they have no control over what happens, that things just happen. They recognize that.
Here's what I found.
But still they get captured by the thought that says, this experience is happening to somebody. And that might present itself in the form of, it still feels like there's a self here, even though I know there's not. And to get through to them that to help them to discover that that the sensation is just a sensation, and that it is thought that turns around and says, therefore it must be me. It must be an I. So therefore I interpret that sensation as feeling like a me. And so they're locked into this thing that they know there's no me, but it still feels like there's a me. And the reality is that there is a feeling that the mind says must be me. They're still believing that particular thought. And I come across this again and again and again and again and again.
But that's I know what you think about that, but I see two different ways to approach it. The first, it's what I was saying about object, because people say, okay, there is no self here, but because there is this strong belief in physical object, that is thing that exists when I'm not aware of them, is still there. It is kind of understanding. When if this belief is in place, they must see, okay, if there is an experience, there must be object out there, and I must be an object also. There must be an entity, a thing here that is receiving those information. And this is the what I'm speaking about. This materialist, the belief of physical thing existing. And the other approach, it's at some point when you go, I don't know if it's the case for all of you here, but when you explore thinking, you find that thinking is it become very subtle, and even there is a thought body. There is a kind of an imagination of a body.
A thing called
And
mind, maybe.
yeah, like no, but like literally the mind is picturing like the face, like you know, if I do like this and I don't watch my face on the video, and then do like this, the mind will project a face, and we say your face look like that. It will literally kind of make some kind of
Yeah.
imagining body in the mind, and this is a different exploration of the me per se. It's really exploring like the connection between sensation and this entity, this physical mental entity that the mind is projecting. And I think it's very subtle. At some point, it's very sensitive, and I don't know if everyone it's has the patience and the curiosity to really explore that. I don't know.
Mm.
Because for example, if any one of you, if you think about yesterday, you will always imagine a body. You cannot think of yourself in other way, like a body doing something. And this is the image I'm saying, and it's the same way it is projecting this kind of same body right here. This is the entity. So I still feel like a me. Maybe it can be. I still have this projection of course some kind of physical entity. I think it's the hardest thing. It's to really grasp grasp in the sense to see experientially that all you have is your experience. If I take any object, that I take, the mind will automatically build this kind of, there is a thing, an object existing there, and it will almost dismiss completely that all I have is seeing and thinking about it and touching it. It will kind of it will jump directly to the conclusion, therefore there is an object out there. And if I don't touch it, if I don't look at it, and if I don't think about it, it's still existing.
Well, that's the
Even if,
issue with a me, isn't it? So we say
yeah,
a thought happens and it is noticed by something. See, that by something is an assumption, isn't it? Because we haven't got locked in the idea that noticing doesn't require a something. What we've got is an assumption that if something is noticed, that it is noticed by something. So in that case, we actually have a physical object that's not physical. That really complicates it, doesn't it?
yeah,
But yes, you're right. It's still an assumption that something exists.
yeah. It is me, and it was very curious because our experience prove us something else, When I go to sleep, everything vanish, literally, everything. Maybe there's a dream and there's a completely different experience appearing with different laws, different people, different stories, everything different. Different physical law, maybe object doesn't fall down, but you just go somewhere, also not. But we just dismiss it, like, no, this is just noise, This
Yep.
is nothing, it's just dreaming, and there is a continuity. But the continuity, we don't experience it. We just imagine that there is some continuity.
Mm.
So like you said, there is many moments in the day that you are not aware of it. Like we said, there is 24 hours, but often you are really conscious, maybe, I don't know, 2 hours in the day, and you can remember maybe half a day. How many hours do you remember about last week? Like 1 second, I was cooking eggs, and that's it. It's just gone already. So it's full of holes. That there is, it's just fragmented completely. But somehow the belief of continuity and solidity of the me, like, I can't remember who I was 1 year ago, what that I did, where I was, with who, what I thought. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I was always, this entity is always there, which is, it's a very strong assumption.
I had a weird experience when you said about remembering yesterday, and I couldn't remember anything of yesterday. I would have to, I could probably work and pull something in, but just in a spontaneous way, it was empty. There was nothing. There was not even a yesterday to remember. It just wasn't there.
Yeah,
And it
but you
was a
see,
weird experience. I had a weird kind of feeling as a result of it.
but you see, this is exactly what you say. What you say is one level below, deeper in a way, because people say there is no self, but there was a yesterday. You see, so therefore the mind come again. If there was a yesterday, I was there. So this is
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
making the entity again. So first later you say there is no me, and the mind will say, but there was a yesterday. And if you succeed in proving to yourself that there is no yesterday, the the second wave of there is a me there doesn't arise, and maybe you can arrive to what you are sharing. That there is no me yesterday, and there was not even yesterday at all.
Mm.
And the proof is, show it to me. What is yesterday? It's no one.
Mm. Because that gets
Interesting.
even weirder when you say, I can't even show you now.
I know. I like this. There is a comedian who did this joke about time. It's so good, but it's like there is someone on the street who come to me and ask me about time, and he asked me what time is it, and I look my watch and I say, you want the time when you ask or when I'm look my watch,
Yeah.
because it's already gone.
Yeah. And what I tell you, what my watch says means nothing about time.
You know?
Mm.
But yet is I completely understand this. I still feel like I'm me. I am often faced with I still feel like a me or a me thought. I don't know what is a me thought, but it's often it's arise people sharing this sentence. I don't know what is your understanding of this, but I can't even grasp it. What is a me thought, Ramiz?
Um, it feels like an experience, but sometimes
Again,
it
it is
has like a gravity. I can become the me or just see the me.
what is
I don't
the difference
understand.
between a me thought and I can become a me?
It's the experience. It's the same, but it's different. Um, it's about forgetting that you are seeing the thought. When you forget that you are experiencing the me, you are the me.
That's
It's like a
interesting.
trick.
Yeah. But here I have quite an opposite experience to that. When I forget that I am experiencing the me, there is no me. There is nothing. There is nothing. There's not even awareness of experience, if you like. Only when I think about being a me, is it possible that I can construct a me with my thoughts, but it's clearly a hollow construction. So it's interesting that it's the opposite experience to what you're talking about.
When I'm speaking about me, I'm speaking about the experience of um, a subject.
Subject.
It doesn't require a thought, or it may be a thought at some level, but it has experience of being here.
Does the experience, the sensation of your foot touching the floor exist before I mention it and you think about it? It only comes into existence when you think, when I mention it, and then you think about it. Is that correct? Before that, it didn't exist, although we can assume that it was always there, but that's a mental assumption.
I feel like the experience of me is unrelated to the experience of my foot. It's just they are made of the same thing. The only time that I experienced the absence of the me was yesterday. I woke up and for a moment I opened my eyes and I saw the wall and the ceiling, and I felt terrified. There was a feeling of being terrified because it was almost like you look at your body and you find nobody, something like that. It's like something missing, and there's a reaction of being terrified, like, where is it? Something is wrong.
I get it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. You hadn't yet reincarnated. You hadn't yet put on the cloak of Ramiz for that short moment.
Yeah, it was different. It was different from any experience I had before.
A brilliant experience, absolutely brilliant and really valuable, incredibly valuable. A direct experience, you might say. No thoughts about it, just direct experience for that really short moment. No stories attached to it for a moment.
But there was, when you woke up and you had this moment, were you aware of sensations?
I can only think about it now. I can't remember.
Okay.
It was so fast that it was like only the ceiling or the wall is existing, and there wasn't even a wall or a ceiling. There was just whatever this is.
Yeah. No words could describe it. Absolutely, I get that. Yeah.
And there's this realization of panic, like, what the hell this is, and here am I again.
I better reincarnate.
But you see, this is the actual concrete exploration. What is here without label? And when you withdraw the label, there is a lot going on here, and maybe a lot more that you can even think about or imagine. Because imagination, it's already very narrow. Interesting. Thank you, Ramiz. That's why what I'm trying not to think and to approach when I relate to my experience, it's more at the beginning, you see like there is a wall, right? Solid. And after no, there is just color. And after so no, there is just there is just the sight of that color. And after you don't know, there's only seeing, there's only an activity, an ongoing whatever ungraspable, that you can't really grasp anything. And I think, I know it seems like words, but when you can think that way, and try to approach your experience that way, things become more loose, there's more, everything's, it's opening more, it's more opening. And maybe there is less fear when those kind of events happen. There's less fear, and my experience, it can be very, very slow and very, very smooth. So smooth that you start to forget how it was to think in another way. Like when you go into when you put a frog into water and you increase slowly the temperature, the frog will just die there because it will not notice the difference of temperature, because it's so slow that you don't even notice until it's too late. That is to say, what I'm saying, it's also an encouragement to don't hold to memories, to what was happened. Something happened, it's gone now. So here you are again. So what's happening here? Don't hold or try to go back to things like this, because
It's to
the end.
expect to live in that place is unrealistic. It's not. It's but recognizing the existence, which is stupid words, not because obviously there is no existence, but yeah. So even the experimental examination of the memory of it, because it's the memory is a reconstruction, and it's not going to be the way it actually was, regardless. But to even think about it, there's no way you can actually describe it. You could never convey your experience to somebody else with words in that. Just to recognize that there was a moment when everything that we take to be real and solid in the world, including our thoughts, was missing. It just wasn't there. And yet you weren't dead. You were still alive. You were still breathing. Things were still happening. But that disorienting experience, that the aspect of it, that idea of what the fuck is going on, and that little panic about, oh, I better grab hold of something that gives me a sense of stability, and that will be thoughts. Again, those thoughts will give you that stability, those thoughts of where you are and what needs to happen and what's going on and all of that stuff that comes along, that gives you a sense of existence. It actually gives you a sense of existence. And in amongst all of that is this idea of a me. I mean, you're calling it more than an idea, but it is just an idea there. Yeah.
Is your experience was like the one I shared, like there is not even a thought of a me?
No. I can't say that I've had the experience that you just had, that you mentioned. This version of it, whatever that is, kind of becomes meaningless to talk about it. But What am I experiencing right now? Am I experiencing thinking? Not really. There are no words forming in my head and being trialed before they're spoken. There's a dominant hearing, there's a dominant sound in the background, which is some kind of a crackling, grumbling sound on the audio coming from your stuff, I think, Ramez. I imagine it
Do you
is.
feel like there is a center to your experience?
No. So it's not my experience. It's what I'm describing. I'm only calling experience for the sake of communication. There's not a strong outside and inside. There's not a strong this and that. There's not a strong me and other. That's I experience my vision of you or my vision of outside there. It's all just colors and shapes, and when I look at you, it takes a specific form of a person, what I call a person. But I can't say that it's happening outside me or inside me. It's just, and it's no different from what I feel. If I think about my bum on the seat or my feet on the floor or my elbows touching something, or the feel of my voice in my head as I talk, I can feel vibration as words come out of this mouth. But it's only just, it's a very superficial description to say that they're words coming out. I just feel their vibration, and I think I hear. It's really hard to say that I am actually hearing. It's just, is there sound? I have to think about it to describe it as sound. That's harder than saying I can feel the vibration of the sound that's happening here, because I can feel it here in almost in front of my ear, whatever. There's that feeling as I talk. And there's a whole lot of feelings. There's a whole lot of sensations going on. There's a sensation of in my ribs on the right, again, I think as I'm breathing, as my lung airs, my ribs are expanding and contracting. It's all a construction. See, it doesn't make any sense when I try and isolate any part of it to talk about it with you. It makes it sound like they exist in isolation, but they don't. There's no separation between what I'm feeling in my ribs and what I'm feeling in my head with the sound, and what I'm seeing with what I assume are my eyes. There is this sense of shape and color, but I can't, none of it makes any sense at a literal level. And the idea of it being a me, that's even one step further away. That's another, I have to almost go entirely into fantasy to produce that. It is just this, I say this experience, but that doesn't, I can't even relate to being this experiencing. It's just another fancy label I put on what's happening to try and communicate. But it makes no more sense to say it's my experiencing or this experiencing, because what it is sensation and sound and color. And even that's
Do you
broken up.
experience
Sorry, go on.
Do you experience the character of Vince?
No, not unless I invent him. I create him. I can make a mental story that surrounds stuff, but it's not really relating to anything.
I mean, in relation to maybe like you are sitting here and talking. The physical experience. There's like maybe like a mental image or
The closest I can get to a mental image is looking at the video of myself talking. But even that's pretty weird, you know. It doesn't. I can see a face and I can see lips moving, and it doesn't sound like the sound that I'm experiencing is here, not there in the screen. So it's like that's not me. That's just a picture on the screen. And if we weren't talking at this level, I could create a story and say, yeah, I'm sitting in the car and I'm talking on Zoom and whatever. But that's not the actual experience. That's just the story for communication purposes.
I'm now kind of confused because you said that it's unreasonable to expect to have no experience of a me, to stop having the experience of a me in order to wake up. But you also, in your experience, there is no me unless you think about it. So I kind of see how the experience of me it can be part of the experience. I don't have to believe it's me, or even the believing in the me is what's happening in the experience.
True.
So it's like from the experience I had and from how you explain your experience, I'm expecting now the absence of me.
But the absence of me is not anything I experience.
It's the way of talking, you know, like
Yeah. I get it. Yeah. So what come to mind, and that was a bit interesting, is that experience you had when you woke up, there was no anchor at all. There wasn't even sensation, or rather, there was no awareness of sensation.
You don't remember.
Sorry?
So we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. That's right.
He say he doesn't remember, so we don't know. I think it's best to not make a big deal out of it, because the more you speak about it, the more you will cling to it. I'm telling you. And after you will write a book about it, and you'll be done.
No. I doubt my experience about like, nah, that was nothing. It's
No, it's not there's nothing, or it's not it was something. It's always look what here, right here. Because you are always here. So whatever was there, if it was there, it is here. If it wasn't there, it is not here. So either way, you don't have to worry about memory, because whatever you seek is right here. And the way to think, to say we cannot live in that place, it's a wrong way it's an inaccurate way to frame it. It's be more accurate to say you are always here.
Yeah.
After it's more a sensitivity or a narrowing or a focusing on different words, but here it's not a place in space, and it's not a moment in time. Here, when we say here, what do you mean when you say here? You will see it has nothing to do with space, time, or finding or losing. This is it. This is here. That is, but not here in space. When we say I'm here, we often say experience is present. This is what we often are saying, really. Experience is happening. I'm aware. There is an awareness for experience. But what the mind understands is, I'm here. There's a universe. There is a linear time, and I'm somewhere on this linear time that goes from the Big Bang, maybe, or maybe I don't know, in other dimension. Now, even scientists don't even know what happened there. So there is some kind of line, and I'm somewhere in that line, and there is some kind of space, infinite space that is even expanding. What does that even mean? I don't know. And I'm somewhere in that space, and this is where I am. But it's purely conceptual. I think it's more accurate to really see, no, there's only this place. So whatever I experienced in the past and I want to seek, okay, great. Well, at least seek it where you can find something, which is right here. So if it's right here, you don't need memory. So you can let it go.
And one thing you were saying there, David, that comes to me that's really, really important, really valuable. It's not possible to experience the absence of something. So when you expect to experience no self, that's an oxymoron. It's impossible for you to experience what is not there. So if we come back to just the actual, and you say then I do experience me now. So when that is not happening, I will experience no me. That doesn't make sense. So if you do experience you now, when you don't experience you now, you will experience nothing. You might create a sense of absence.
It won't be me experiencing the no me.
Exactly.
Obviously. I had this dream where I was dreaming that I can't wake up, I can't move. And at some moment, I realized that this is a dream and I was able to move. And it was like, when I actually woke up, the one who's dreaming that he can't move is not the one who woke up, you know, and it's the experience. I feel like there is different versions of me. Like in each moment, there is a different experience.
Absolutely, yes.
So
it never stops. Yeah.
So it's like you take a layer out, or you expand more, and the sense of me becomes smaller. It doesn't define the experience. It's just one aspect. And if something is just one aspect of a whole, then it can move, it can be removed, it can. change.
Mm. So can you see that that is an artificial overlay to explain something? It's not the actuality, it's just a way of talking, that there are different aspects of you. Yeah? Ha. And when I saw James's logo, I had to say, yeah, because that's what James does at the end of talking. He says, yeah, all the time. And so that triggered that. That's what happened. Yeah, boom, boom. So if you can recognize that this artificial division of you into aspects of you is an artificial, then is there an actuality that says that the whole doesn't work right with words, that the whole contains all those bits, but they're not separate bits and they're not bits at all, but they can be described as aspects of you. But the whole of you is even more than that. You can't even begin to limit it to just those characteristics that you might call aspects of you, because it starts to take into account things that you see and things that you hear and things that you smell and things that you feel and so on and so on. And they're not even inside you, but they are part of your experience. So they're included, not just the aspects that you might call that are part of this character called Ramiz. It's part of the world that exists for Ramiz, which includes all of those things, everything.
I don't think I can know who I am. Or
No, beautiful. That's right. Exactly. You can't, because who you are or what you are, if anything, is part of the absolute, and that's unknowable.
no, that's not my reasoning. It's
Okay.
I don't know about the absolute, but whatever I know is just part of the experience. It can't be me. Even the experience of me is just, it can't be me.
That's right. Yeah.
So all I can do in a sense is to unknow what is not me.
Why bother?
It's just what's happening.
Okay.
No,
It's
but
just that I
I think
noticed
it's a good exploration. This is you start discriminating. You just start to say, okay, this is not me, this is not me, this is not me. I cannot be a sensation. I cannot be this. I cannot be this. I think it's a normal process. If it's happening, it's very good. At some point, you will go the opposite way. Like you are everything. You are the thought. You are the whole experience is your body. It's you, because there's no other you. There is just this, whatever it is. Because if you take, for example, when you talk about the dream you had, you couldn't move. So there was some kind of body there, right? The dream couldn't move, so there was some kind of body. This body was laying on something. There was some object upon which he was on top. You were sitting, laying down, or standing up in the dream.
I was in the same position I was sleeping in, and
Okay, so you were same position. Interesting. Okay,
yeah,
so
it
you were
was
laying down on something, like in your dream.
on
You
the bed.
remember that it was in a room. There was a room also.
I was actually thinking that I can't wake up in reality, but it was a dream.
Yeah, but what I'm
But
trying
then,
to say, the experience of the dream, there was objects, there were walls, there was a bed, there was a body, there was walls, right? You were in a room in your dream.
Yeah, it's in the same room, in the same
The
bed,
same
and the
room.
same thing.
Did you experience people
I
before or after?
experienced a feeling of someone closing the lights. I don't know if this is related. It was confusing.
Okay, no, but that's okay. It's what I'm just trying to point to. It's like you agree that you were nothing that was in your dream, nothing was you, right? Now you can see, no, of course, I wasn't on this bed, you were in the bed, you were in the room, and you weren't the person, right? Yeah, it was just a
No,
dream.
the realization was is just it wasn't me that can't wake up, because now I can wake up.
But right now, you are not in the dream. You are not the dream right now that you had.
No,
Okay. So now tell me, what was the dream made of?
it's experience.
Experience, right? But it felt like there was object there. There was thing happening.
Yeah,
Yeah. So what is the difference with right now?
there's no difference.
There's no difference. So the dream, it's as real as here. Or to say differently, the dream is as dreaming as this is dreaming. So in a way, you can say nothing here is you, which is completely correct. You can explore, nothing is here you. At the same time, where is all of this happening?
I don't know.
You don't know. Who cares, right?
So, Ramez, where do you imagine you would end up if you went down the route of removing everything that is not you? What would be left at the end of that? Just your fantasy. I'm not asking for you to actually do it, but if you were to remove everything that was not you, what would you be left with?
I don't know. I can't imagine.
All right, let me change the question. Do you imagine you would be left with something?
I imagine freedom. I don't know what that is, but that's how it feels.
So could you, if we go the converse, would it be accurate to say that something that is not you is inhibiting that freedom?
If I believe it is me, yeah.
Oh, and that confused me. Something that you believed is not you, you could believe is you. I see. So something that is actually not you could still be believed to be you. Right, I get it. Okay.
If I wasn't aware of like the experience of selfing or identifying is always just you notice after the fact, like, oh, I was identifying. You can't notice it when it's happening because the moment you notice it, you are no longer identified with it.
Yes, yeah, I get that. Yeah. Like you can only know you were dreaming after you wake up.
Yeah. And if you know you are dreaming, then it's a lucid dream. It's different kind of experience.
Again, we have to apply an artificial construct, but it does make sense, and I can do that. I can say that the way I imagine a dream world is constructed is exactly the way this world is constructed. Which should lead me to the conclusion that this is a lucid dream. But that still feels really very separate from the experience of it.
I don't understand what you mean.
No, it was convoluted, wasn't it? Mm. I guess because the whole thing becomes a bit useless. You know, that the idea that when I'm in a dream, every character and everything that I actually experience is a creation of me. That's a story. And it's probably a fairly good story because all logic points to that. And if I say the same thing applies in this so-called real world, that is also everything, and everything I experience is also constructed by me, then I should arrive at the experience that, oh yes, well, I'm having a lucid dream. But that's not something I actually experience. It's just a description I can apply to what goes on. It becomes quite a separate. It's just a story. It's like it's no more valid than any movie on Netflix to say that. So the whole idea of trying to describe what this is becomes pretty stupid. So instead of going down the road of removing everything that's not you, try another fantasy that you sort through everything and just keep the bits that are you. What bits would you keep?
Part of what? I'm not sure I understand.
Well, it's pretty easy for when you to think about it. You say, I'll remove all of the bits that are not me. So that means that you'll examine each thing that you experience and decide whether or not they are actually you, and discard them. At least in your imagination, you'll discard them if they're not you. And I imagine that if you were to do that, when you discarded all of the bits that are not you, there would be nothing left at the end. But you didn't come to that conclusion. But if you went the other way around and you sorted through all of the bits and said, I'll only keep the bits that are me, again, I imagine that you'll end up with nothing.
I don't think it's in the experience of seeing things as not me. It's not an active thing. It's a noticing.
But is it just noticing, or is it noticing plus stories?
There is always, it seems there's always a noticing before the story.
Okay, so until I mention it, the sensation of your back against the chair, if that exists for you, until I mention it, it didn't exist. But the noticing now, because I've mentioned it, does that change its nature? Does it not you before you noticed it and now it's you after you've noticed it? What's the difference from before and after noticing?
I don't know. It doesn't seem to fit to what I'm saying, because I don't identify with the sensation of sitting.
Right. So could we go as far as to say then you don't identify with anything that you might experience as the body? Any tactile or any of the physical senses? None of them bring about a sense of me. Would that be accurate? Nothing you feel, nothing you see, nothing you hear, nothing you touch, nothing you smell, nothing you taste, none of that brings about a sense of me. It comes from somewhere else. Is that right?
Yeah, it's
But what else is there besides those things?
nothing.
Well, what about thinking?
What about thinking?
Is that something other than those things? Or shall we include thinking in them?
It's part of the experience.
Yes, true. But if you were quite clear that none of those first 5 physical senses produce a sense of me. It comes from somewhere else.
It comes from thoughts.
From thought, only from thought. Yes. Right.
It's like a trick. It can have a sensation with it, but I don't know how it works exactly. It's the noticing of it. It's it doesn't seem mine. It seems it has no source. It has no center. It doesn't. And there's a claiming of that center, like it's me seeing, hearing, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it's noticed. It's not noticed from the same point. It's noticed from nowhere. It kind of.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds great. So you are not, you say you are not a sensation. That's clear to you, apparently. You are not what you perceive. That's also seems clear to you. And you are not a thought, right? You are not the activity of thinking. It's correct.
Unless I forgot and identified
What do
with
you
it.
mean by I forgot?
It's
Oh, right now. No, I'm
when
not talking about yesterday. Right now.
when
Are you a thought?
no,
So you're not a thought. Like I'm not the fridge, right? If I say to you, I am a fridge because I forgot that I'm not a fridge, you will just say, but what are you talking about? You are a fridge or you are not a fridge. So either you know you're a fridge or either you believe you're a fridge, but you cannot tell me I am not a thought and have to tell me, oh, I am a thought because I forgot that I'm not a thought. It just makes no sense. This is just a thought again. Just see, are you a thought? And if you say no, you watch the thought and you you have enough sensitivity to be aware what is the nature of the thought. So when the thought appears that, oh, I am this, I am that, I forgot that who I am, you can just see, oh yeah, this is just a thought, just like a
it
sensation.
doesn't have to make sense for it to happen.
Yeah, I know. I'm not. I'm kind of pushing you by talking, but it has nothing to do with understanding. But it's the same like with sensation, you know. When you are quiet, doing exercise and steering and just enjoying life on the beach, and you say, "I'm not my sensation," beautiful. And after you just hit your toe, you know, very hard, and you have a lot of pain, and that's maybe different. But that doesn't change that you're not the sensation happening or the pain appearing. You see?
It doesn't change the experience.
No,
It's
because you can shift what can be a good tool is shift the perception of the belief of identification with intensity. This can really work. Like if you are very relaxed and you have no pain and the sensation are really pleasant, like it's very light and smooth, it's easier to say, oh, I'm not a sensation, right? Because everything is good, you're just in a bliss, right? But when there is pain, you will be like, oh, because it's here, so I'm holding, so I'm in the pain and everything. But if you switch and just say there is very light sensation, very low intensity, just almost, I cannot even really, it's there, but I cannot even imagine where it's just somewhere there, like, you know, somewhere there is my left pinky toe, right? It's somewhere there. I know I go there and I can feel it. It's maybe this, it's kind of far away, right? And when there's a lot of pain, it's just in your face, and there is just sensation screaming at you, and there is only this in all you scream, in all you feel, just pain, which is sensation, very intense sensation. But you are not neither the very light sensation, neither the screaming sensation we call pain. Well, maybe it's the same with thinking. Thinking can be very low and almost unnoticed or absent, or they can be very strong, like my life, my money, my children, my this, my that, which is okay. You can recognize it, but that doesn't mean that you are that.
Ramiz,
Oh, go on, Vince.
there you go.
Hi, Ramiz. I've just woke up, so excuse me if I'm a bit bleary. You just said two amazing things, two incredible things for me. One was it doesn't have to make sense, and the second was it doesn't change the experience. Yeah. Now, earlier you were talking about a dream, and I didn't catch the whole thing. But when you wake up from the dream, yeah, you have that memory of the dream, yeah? You can look back, you can see it. It doesn't necessarily have to make sense. Yeah, you look back at the dream. A lot of my dreams don't make sense. And also looking back at it once you've woken up, it doesn't change the dream. Yeah, that happened. And it's the same with, for want of a better word, waking up from life. It doesn't have to make sense. And nothing changes. But like, if the way works for me is when you look back at your dream, you have no control over that dream. You thought you did when you were in it. Yeah, you were doing whatever you did. You ran around, you could fly, whatever you do in dreams. Yeah, but you had zero control. Yeah, and when you wake up from this, doesn't have to make sense. Nothing changes. You have zero control over it. Or do you think you do have control?
I think I can't help but try to have control.
And that's the difference. I agree with you completely. That's the difference. You think you are in control. Yeah. Get that. Yeah. And whatever the shift is, the leap, whatever you want to call it, for me, all it was realizing zero control. Like, I don't know what the next word I'm going to say to you is. You know, this morning I planned to get up at 6 o'clock and be on this meeting, and I ended up getting up at 6:45 and coming down. It just happens. Yeah. And that's the only difference I can say between you and I, is you think you're in control of what's happening to you, and I don't think I'm in control of what's happening to me. Yeah. But if nothing changes, it doesn't make sense. Go on. No, you speak.
Do you try to have control?
I don't try. What happens is, during my daily life, things happen. You know, I get up, I go to the toilet. You know, I'm going to an exercise class in about another hour or so. I'll do those things, yeah? But when I actually, like, think about it in the sense of what's going on here, I didn't actually make any of those decisions. I didn't actively do it. You know, it's like, for instance, the one way it was put to me is we think we're in control, yeah, about the decisions we make. But say, for instance, I'd had a row with my wife half an hour ago, yeah? All the things that are happening now would be totally different. I'd be making all those decisions from a different perspective, a different state of mind, you know, a different hormonal imbalance in my body, yeah? And I may think I'm in control, but I didn't choose to have that row, yeah? Which puts me in a different position and changes all my decisions. So if you think of all the other things that happen to you, yeah, whether it's the middle of the day or the middle of the night, yeah, you don't have any choice over that, but that will affect your decisions, and so on and so on and so on. All these things happen. Yes, I have the illusion of control, yeah? I walk around thinking I'm in control, like when I'm doing, well, I don't even think about it anymore. But I would have said before, yes, I'm in control, and I'm not. What happens next? Look, another example, there was an accident in Scotland, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, where an aeroplane fell out the sky, yeah, and killed some people in a village in the middle of Scotland, yeah? So I'm sitting here, and the next thing that may happen is an aeroplane flies through my roof, yeah? And that's the end, done, finished, gone as far as I'm concerned. But you women, no control, no decision on my part, and life is like that for me.
Let me ask you a question, James, that
Yeah.
Now, subtle, I want you to take my words really literally, every single word that I'm asking you. And I'm asking on your behalf, Ramesh. When you said you wanted to wake up at 6 a.m. and get here for this meeting,
Yeah.
There did exist an intention to do it.
Yes.
Could that intention be described? Could it be described as an attempt to exercise control over what happened? Could it be described as?
Yeah, right. From my current perspective, I'd say no, but I can see why it appears that way. Yeah, because it's always we look. I'm looking back at a decision that was made, say, yesterday. Yeah, and from my perspective now, I could say, oh yeah, look, I made that decision to get up, set an alarm, do this, do that. Yeah, but back then when I did it, I don't know why I decided to get up today and try and make this meeting. You with me?
Yeah.
It just back then it just happened. So I can look back and retrospectively claim control over everything. You
Yes,
know, I decided to marry my wife, whatever. You know.
yes. So it could be described as from a different perspective than the one you've got, right? Ramesh, would you describe that as an attempt to exercise control?
For me, control seems it's not about intention or about making decisions. It feels more about attachment to the outcome.
Okay, so would you, boy, that went boing for me. That was brilliant. Would you say that the difference between you and James is that he has no attachment and you do to the outcome?
It's not actually control. It's an attempt. It's a desperate attempt to control. Like if I got attached enough to something, I might change the outcome. But it's pointless. But the energy behind it seems to happen to me. Of like, I wish something is different. It's like a way to manipulate the universe to be how I like it to be.
I get it. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So somewhere what you have again. So now we get down another little layer underneath, another level. So not only is there no attachment on James's part to the outcome, but he doesn't see that it is possible for there to be any other outcome than the one that happened. But you still do. Is that accurate?
Yes and no.
Well, you have to tell me more then. Yes and no's not anything I can relate to.
It's happening, but I understand how it's pointless. How it's.
Yeah, okay, I get it. I get that. I do. Yeah. That brings me back to something I wanted to clarify with you a little earlier, and that was that you said that you see no actual reason why there is this sense of a me, yet there actually is. Is that a true statement that for you there is not single reason for you to see that there is a me, but it is an experience that you have that there is a me?
I'm not sure if this is accurate. How it's more like there's a sense of me, but it's not my making. I'm not responsible for the sense of me, or I'm not the me that I'm experiencing.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's there. Whoa.
Have you ever used virtual reality glasses? You know, this thing you put here, and
No.
there is place that you can go. It's like a big place with nothing inside, and you put those right in the middle. You put this, and you can see you put gloves, and you know, and you can see your hands. You can run in the space, and when you run literally in the video game, right? The virtual reality, right? So I'm speaking about this because right now, you're still using the word me, like I want to be in control. There's a sense of me. And I'm not sure that I think you are clear with the overlapping of um, um, the layer of conceptualization that can overlap. And because, for example, if we are all in this video game and I am shooting at zombies behind a box, right? And we have like a cell phone, we can speak, and you are somewhere else in the game. And you tell me, where are you, David? And I say, I'm behind the box shooting zombies. Where are you? I am there behind. Okay, let's meet there. And we can have a whole conversation, and it's completely appropriate, right? Because I am behind the box shooting at zombies. Obviously, I'm not flying in the aircraft. You know, this is my experience. At the same time, if I play the game and you are playing the game and you tell me, David, where are you? Well, I am in the big room playing a video game. You will say, but you know, no, you have to answer from the perspective that I'm asking, from where I'm asking you the question. I don't know if this is too complex, but I think it makes sense. But the point I'm saying is like there is a sense of it can be a sense of me, right? And the sense of me can very shift, you know. Like of course you are Ramis, and after you play video game, and of course you are the Lord of the Ring in whoever dimension playing, killing something or whatever, I don't know, right? Or maybe you are driving a car now. And someone go, what are you doing? I'm driving a car, but you are sitting in a chair in a computer, but not really, because when you feel the chair, there's no chair, there's no computer, and there is no me. So all of this is kind of like it's like layers of conceptualization that we navigate constantly between all of them, constantly.
And one of those
That
layers,
makes
of
sense.
conceptualization is that there is a me, you know, from that
Yeah.
perspective. But it is a layer of conceptualization. It's not actual.
Exactly. So if I am taking an airplane to go to another country and across the border, and someone asks me, who are you, where you come from, what's your name, I will not say, there is no one here. You know, there is just an infinite all. Well, after, you know, I mean, you can do this, but it's just not very practical. So,
Where are you asking me from?
well, so far I didn't ask any question, but or you're asking Vince.
You said you're asking me from a different place about the sense of me.
Yeah, well,
What is your
it is.
experience of the sense of me?
Well, when people say sense of me, I have no idea what they are referring to, really. No, I don't know. When you say sense of me, I don't know what you mean.
You just said
That's
like
what
the
really.
experience of the sense of me changes, and what was you referring to?
I was referring to the thought that appear, because the sense of me is connected with its environment.
He wants to know what video game you're in right now.
I mean, what is your experience of being a separate self or identified?
But,
Have you
yeah, but you
experienced
see,
that?
I understand why you asked this question, but the word you
I
use are misleading, and that's okay. I'm not trying to play conceptual games. I'm just saying there is thinking in my experience. There is sensing and there is perceiving. And the only thing I can add to maybe it can be helpful. It can be there is this sense of aliveness. There's this sense of being that is not connected to any of those. Yes, this is what's happening. So when you say sense of me, identification, what do you mean by identification? With, I mean, it's there is thought appearing, and when a thought appear, there is always some kind of identification with it, some kind of thing happening that doesn't mean anything.
I'm not
So
sure how
what is
our experience is
the
different.
question? Well, I'm not saying it's different, but first I have no idea what your experience is. But tell me, when you say I am Ramiz, can you find this Ramiz, this entity? Can you find it right now?
What do you mean by find it?
Can you experience a Ramiz?
Yes.
Okay. What is this experience?
It's the sound of my voice. It's the sensations in my body or in this body. It's the image in my head about myself.
Yeah, well, the image of yourself, this image is the sound and the sensation. Okay, go to the sensation of Ramiz right now.
When I construct the sense of the self, I can't find it. It's just a construct. I understand that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that the sense of me is like an illusion. It's a trick. And when I'm pointing to that it's not real, I can see that, but that doesn't change the experience.
What experience are you talking about?
Well, when people say there is no me or there's only this, it seems to exclude the sense of me. Like there's nothing that's called me, just fantasy. And I'm saying that maybe it's a fantasy, but it's part of my experience right now.
Okay.
Maybe I'm not saying that it must be true or I want it to be true. I'm open to see it as false or whatever. But I'm just
but I
saying
don't understand.
my
It's like you. But what I'm hearing, and James and Vince can help me there, because what I'm hearing is you are seeing that the sense of me. When you say sense of me, you are seeing that this sense of me is pointing to a manufactured, conceptual, artificial perception that is appearing in your experience. We are seeing that.
Yes.
So where is the struggle? I don't understand.
Yeah. I'm really excited
struggling?
here. I want to jump in. Yeah, I've got really excited.
Yeah,
here.
jump. Yeah.
So Ramiz, that's great. That's fine. That's absolutely it. So if I say to you, describe your experience, and you say, well, I can feel this in my whatever, and I can see this, and I hear this, and there's this experience I'm calling me, that's fine. Absolutely fine. You recognize it is a construct for the purpose of description or explanation. That's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely fine. You recognize that that there's no actual me there. It's just words you're using to describe something. Good stuff. That's it. You're done. Finished. Cooked. Lovely. I've been waiting for you to wake up, and here you are. Great, excellent.
And not enough
Also,
for him.
Ramiz, that you're saying we all construct this sense of self, yeah? Well, I still do, yeah? Okay. It happens, yeah. But I would say to you two things. One, don't limit your sense of self. Like, for instance, if you see some cars going past on the street, yeah, that is part of your sense of self. I don't mean you're the ruler of the universe, and you have ultimate power, and the cars are actually part of your body, yeah. But whatever you're seeing, we take certain parts of our experience and go, oh, I've got this sense of, something upsetting happens and you have a tightness in your chest, or you're angry and you feel a pressure in your head, yeah. And we go, oh, those things are me, yeah. They're experiences and sensations. But we don't say when we look at the wall and see it, or we get the sounds that come in of a bird, yeah, we don't go, they're part of me. But they are. You are not the bird, obviously. You are not the car that goes past in the street. But in your experience, that everything is you in that moment, yeah? And some bits we say, oh yeah, this is me, I'm going to claim this. And other bits we don't claim. Yeah, it's all you, yeah, because it's all happening to you. It's all your experience. It's your interpretation. It's your understanding. Yeah, so all that happens. So don't limit yourself. Yeah, experience everything, and it's all you. Yeah, without being grandiose and think you can then, think of the Taj Mahal and it will be in front of you. Yeah, but also that sense of me doesn't control anything. That sense of me doesn't make the pressure in your head when you're angry. That sense of me doesn't make the sound happen. So that sense of me may be there and is everything, but it also doesn't do anything. It just sits there and is there as part or all of that experience. There you go.
So when
I will encourage you to go further, because somehow I'm under the impression, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm the impression that you're kind of stuck with this sense of me. There is a me, there is this, there is that. Somehow, if you can clearly see what you are sharing, that this sense of me, it's a conceptual, artificial, made up entity. If you see this, I will encourage you to go explore the perceptual field and the sensing field. Because when I said sense of me, you say thought and everything, and after you say, yeah, but the sound of my voice and sensation, you see. So you starting to explore those dimensions, because there is two overlay over sensation. For example, if I say arm and my hand, and I start to feel my hand, the first thing that the thinking will do, it will overlay a layer of object and an image of a hand directly on the pure raw sensation. This is the first overlay. And upon this, it will say, because there is a hand, because I perceive a hand, I am the hand. This is me. This is a second overlay. It will overlay a sense of identification on the raw sensation. So if you can explore sensation and perception that way, you can start to not only understand maybe on the conceptual level, but to really start to feel it. And I think this is what you are more and more pointing toward. This kind of, yeah, but I still feel like me, feel like a sense of self. The sense of self is still there. I don't believe that the sense of self is still there. I believe that there is just a wrong interpretation about the raw sensation.
Mm.
You still connect to what you think is a raw sensation, but you still connect to only thinking. Like James was saying, you see, when you see a car, you see a car. But if you see a car, you are not connecting with what is there, which is color. So when you see a car, you are still connected with the thinking. And when you see a car, you say, this is the first overlay. There is color. You say, this is a car. And after it will overlay the me, the sense of me. And therefore, I must be a thing somewhere here, seeing this object out there. I don't know if this makes sense, but I think can be helpful.
Yeah, when it's exactly what you said. It's an overlay of an interpretation, and like the sensation of me, for example, looking from my eyes, the sensation when I look closer is just sensations, but the overlay is
Exactly.
just resistance. Like it's
Yeah, I would say forget the word me, forget the word you, and replace when both arise, you just say thinking. Activity of thinking. There's an activity of thinking which is overlaying whatever is there. Okay, just forget me and you because you seem very clear about this entity, about the nature of this entity. So now that it's clear, just drop it, and just see what this is. This is the stream of thinking. It's fine, and explore. I mean,
So if I remember back, and I don't know how accurate my memory is, but I construct this fantasy that in the beginning, after waking up, when I said I and me and mine, a caveat would turn up where I would say, "Oh, I don't actually mean that I own those things or that there is a me." Right? But that got pretty boring pretty quickly. I don't know how long it took before I didn't bother to think about that anymore. So when I go out of here, my wife is going to say to me, "What do you want for tea?" And I'm probably going to say, "I don't know." And I don't think that when she says, "What do you want?" What do you want? That she's actually talking about a person. She might think that. I don't know. When I say I don't know, I don't really mean I. I don't think that those things don't even come into play anymore. Right? They're just sounds like absolutely normal conversation. It's only on examination that I would get to the point where I go, well, what's really going on here is there hunger? Is there a preference for something in particular? That kind of stuff. Yeah, don't even bother to analyze it. It just says, what do you want for tea? I don't know. And then she'll suggest something and I'll go, okay. So what I'm getting at is that you put an awful lot of energy into thinking about this. And that's part of where the word liberation comes from. You'll get freed from that. That energy will get freed up. You'll get freed from that obsession of thinking about this kind of stuff. And it will just become this. And that's a shitty way to describe it, but it's as good as it gets.
I think Vince has made two great points. Well, Vince and David. One is the fact that we take preferences as choices. Like if somebody offers me, say, vanilla ice cream and chocolate ice cream, I'll choose the vanilla ice cream because that's what I prefer. But why I prefer vanilla ice cream, has got whatever history to it. Yeah.
Oh,
so it wasn't really a choice because I didn't choose to prefer it.
Chocolate?
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing David was saying, I agree completely. I went down this hole that, we look out and then there's this layer of thinking and we put labels on everything. So currently, I'm in my living room, I'm looking at the wall with yellow wallpaper, yeah? And I think it was Vince, can't remember who came up with this idea. Everything's got a post-it note on it, yeah? So like lamp, wall, David, Vince, me, they're all post-it notes, yeah? Peel the post-it note off, And what have you got next? Yeah, so I've got a yellow patterned wallpaper, but yellow patterned and wallpaper are all labels. So peel those off. Yeah. And what have you got after that? And as I say, you get down to these levels of sensations. That's what's happening. But I suddenly realized that even when that idea of yellow hits my eye, even if I take a word the way yellow, there's a non-verbal label. Yeah, that yellow is still registering in my head, and I've got an experience of it, but that experience is a label. And I went down this hole, and then I was thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it, and then I got to the point when this all sort of clicked. So what? That's what it is. It comes in my eyes, it comes in my ears. I have this experience. I respond, and okay, I in inverted commas, yeah. I've claimed the word I back. I respond, this does whatever it does. And that's it. And yeah, it's a shitty explanation because before I was looking for nirvana, heaven on earth. When I realized there's no self, I'm going to be surrounded by angels or whatever your particular fantasy is from the culture you're brought up in. Yeah. That life will just happen for me. I will have everything I need. I will win the lottery every day of the week. Make up any fantasy you like, yeah? And all it is rather than having those, I still have those fantasies, but they are genuine fantasies now, as opposed to some sort of underlying belief that there's some realness in them, yeah? And this life happens, and I think the way I normally put it is I'd rather win the lottery than lose a leg, yeah? But if I did win the lottery or lose a leg, once that happens, you deal with it in the same way, in the sense that, oh, now the lottery happens, my life's doing this. Oh, I lost a leg and it'll hurt and I'll be upset, but now I'm doing this. Life went the way it went, and that's it. Wish I could give you, roses and chocolate every day, but that isn't what happens.
There is a change though, that change is because all of this energy that is freed up from thinking about this and seeking, that does allow what I call magic to happen. You have a different perspective on things.
Yeah.
And that changes things, yeah.
Yeah, perhaps I was a bit bleak there, Ramiz, and just trying to lay out that life is life. But yes, I'd rather be where I am now than where I was before. Yeah, in the sense that, as you say, there is this, even though I don't choose it, there is a sense of freedom, a sense of contentment or peacefulness. Yeah, that hasn't made life any different, but it's allowed whatever I am to flow with life rather than fight it.
So you could construct a story that says that James's sense of freedom comes from what he's taken away, what he's lost, which was something. But it is just a story. Right? His sense of whatever he's calling freedom is because of what is there rather than what's not there.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think of this as a lessening rather than a gaining. It's we part of it is when I was doing this search before, it was gaining something, it was getting something. Yeah. As where really it was a letting go of something. Yeah. And it was the letting go that allowed the freedom. Yeah, exactly, Vince. And it'll be different for you, Ramiz. Whatever it'll be for you, like Vince and I've realized, and I think Vince realizes, and probably everybody else does, that whatever your personal experience of this is, everybody seems to be different and takes it in a different way. Yeah. So we look forward to hearing what your version of it will be.
So tell me, James, I'd be really interested. Can you remember the last time you suffered?
I can I can tell you the last time I was in pain, in a sense, psychological pain, if that makes sense, rather than suffered. Yeah. It's this subtle distinction, isn't it? That things happen, things in the flash of the moment feel upsetting, or as I say, have some sort of pain, that initial rise of something. When my daughter said something to me last night at dinner, yeah, and there was this moment where I went to take something from the table, and she grabbed the bowl and said, "I'm hungry, I'm going to eat it." And in that very first moment, there was what would have been anger, yeah. So there was an initial something. As I say, it doesn't become any worse. I can't say there's no suffering at all, but the suffering lasted for like that long, rather than me getting angry and then going, "Don't be so greedy," and then a family fight or whatever. Yeah. I just noticed it happening. I went, "Oh, didn't like that." Took a breath and then let her eat all the tortilla chips. Yeah. So yeah, it's like the reason I'm sort of prevaricating a bit is I struggle with the word suffering, because when you say there's no suffering, it things like nothing ever goes wrong.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yes, things go wrong, but I know in the way you're talking, no suffering. I can't remember the last time I suffered, because it's probably going back a year or more now. What we would normally have described as suffering. Yeah. Where I take something and then I run with it for the rest of the week.
It's a prolonged thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been a while, which is fantastic. And I think that also shows about memory, when we think memory is a perfect thing, when I actually can't remember whatever event it actually was. I know it happened, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah. I get that one. I remember that something happened, but I can't remember what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Ramiz, I have a question for you about all this esoteric stuff we're talking about. But do you have an expectation of what will be different if and when a shift, or however we want to describe it, happens?
I'm expecting maybe less self-doubt.
Interesting.
That just turned my mind inside out.
Yeah, that was good.
There's no self, but we do have self-doubt. Okay.
It's
Well,
doubt
exactly.
about
I wanted. Oh, tell me what it
doubt
is.
about
Yeah,
making decisions, or I don't mean about the self. It's more about what's happening. I can remain in inactivity or indecision for too long.
So do you apply a tool for investigation of these kind of things? Can you ask yourself, what's underneath this? Is it that I have an expectation, or I have a demand, or I have at least a story about how things should turn out?
I don't know. It feels more like a freeze response, and I can investigate, like ask the questions, what I'm scared of, what what I'm expecting will happen, or what I'm avoiding, or I don't want to feel. And I can get underneath all that, but the experience of self-doubt comes again and again in different scenarios. Just
that would suggest to me that there is a toxic starting point of self-doubt, that if it comes again and again and again like that, that there is something really fundamental in you where you have learned that you can never do it right.
I had an issue lately about financial stuff with money and the bank, and there's an issue. Doesn't matter, but I felt a sensation that it's so different to anything I usually feel in the body. It was like a discovery in the chest. I usually don't feel anything in the chest, mostly in the throat and the head and the back. And suddenly I felt this pressure and it felt like pure survival feeling of like I don't know. It's
Yep, I get that.
I think that's great, because I mean that's an interpretation. But you know, if you start to feel things that you weren't aware of, or that you start to feel part of your body that you didn't feel before, and if those parts is in the chest or in the gut, it's where emotion often arises, and thing gets very stuck. I think it's a good sign. It's interesting, but I don't see where is the self-doubt in this.
I don't know. It's maybe it's unrelated.
Okay.
How did you deal with that feeling, Ramiz?
I woke up for like these past 2 days. I felt so heavy, and I was like sleeping all the time. Like I wake up and I go back to sleep because it's so heavy. I can't just sit. And I woke up like 8 hours ago or 6 hours, and I didn't move from the bed. I just stayed laying down and feeling, and it was the most difficult experience I had. And sometimes it gets soft and quiet, and sometimes it gets more intense.
And I assume that there was a period sometime in the past in your memory, yesterday, the day before, last week, last month, where you didn't have this feeling. Yeah, you haven't had this feeling for your whole life. Yeah,
it felt like a more intense version of what I usually feel.
okay. And did you have this feeling when you were 5 years old?
I don't remember.
Okay, so I'm making an assumption here, yeah, that there was at least some point far enough back where this feeling didn't exist, yeah, because I assume you weren't born with it. If you were, that's a whole different kettle of fish, yeah. But
Yes,
experiences in your life, your response to these experiences, things happening, is this feeling, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Now, this may not sound true to you, but there's probably going to be some time in the future, we're dodgy ground with the future, where this feeling will go away, or at least become less intense. Because even now, you said like 6 hours ago, you were lying in bed, it was so heavy, you didn't want to get up, you couldn't move, whatever, yeah? At least now you're up and moving and talking to us, yeah? So that at least the intensity of the feeling has changed, even if it hasn't gone away completely.
yeah,
Yeah, so it changes. So the only way I can explain this is something somebody said to me once. His car had broken down. And this was way before I was in, whatever this is, awakened, enlightened, or, different perspective. And I said to him, oh, that's a bummer. And he went, it's okay. He said, last week my car was working fine. He said, this week it's broken, but it's in the garage. And next week my car will be fine. It's a transient phenomena. Yeah. And when we're going through a transient phenomena, it can feel devastating, overwhelming. But it is a transient phenomena. Yeah. As are all feelings, as are all thoughts, as are all lives. Yeah. So I don't know if it gives you any comfort in the moment, but I've been in situations where I've been overwhelmed. I remember one time being so overwhelmed I couldn't even put the kettle on to make a cup of tea. I mean, literally, I couldn't stand up out of the chair and walk over and fill a kettle with water and put it, on the hob. Yeah. And in that moment, several years ago now, life was too much. Yeah. Thankfully, it only lasted about 30 seconds or a minute or so, and I sort of shook my head and went and made myself a cup of tea. But all I'm trying to get across here is whatever is happening, everything is transient. Yeah. It will change. Yeah. It changed before, it'll change again. Everything is transient. And also, you don't have any choice in the sense of, saying, oh, I don't want this to feel heavy, or, it felt heavy in the moment. It feels different now. You will, whatever that is, goes through life. These things change. Yeah. Sin, I've created a stunned silence. I'll say something else then. About 3 months ago-ish, whatever the timescale, doesn't matter. I didn't feel particularly good about something. I can't remember what it was. Vince was saying about suffering. But rather than it being suffering, I had this churning in my stomach and a pressure in my head. And I realized those were labels. So I peeled off the label pressure in head, and I peeled off the label churning in stomach. And then that moved me to, the muscles tight in my forehead, yeah? Or, there's chemicals moving around in my stomach. And then I peeled the labels off those, because like before we were saying, every word is a label. And I just kept moving down through the sensations, kept peeling the labels off, whatever I wanted to call them, until the labels disappeared. And then we get to those non-verbal labels, which obviously I can't describe to you because they're non-verbal, but just keep peeling off the labels. And in the end, I got to a place of, for want of a better word, peace. Yeah. Even in the midst of, an overwhelming sensation, even in the midst of life giving me lemons. Yeah. It's still possible to find a place of calm. And that's the way I did it. So there's a technique. I don't know if that will work for you.
I can sometimes manage to get myself into this state of relaxation. Like removing all the labels from sensations, and it becomes oceanic, and I feel like I'm being swallowed in this experience, and I don't want to move even from the sensation.
Perhaps the difference is, and I'm guessing a little here because this is my experience and I can't transplant it onto you, but Vince seems to have a similar experience. Is when we start talking about the I and the self and these sensations, then we're thinking about them. But I tend to go through life not even thinking about this stuff anymore. It's not until it comes up in conversation. Yeah, so I'm not really thinking there's an I or a self or, something overwhelming or something annoying, whatever. It's just, oh, somebody will talk to me about it. And then I go, oh, yeah, okay, no, that happened, this happened. But I don't know if it's a place of equanimity or balance that you end up at. All these things are happening, but my brain doesn't kick into, every time. Yeah. So I hope that comes your way.
Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ramiz.
Talking about not having any control, I'm going to say something completely trivial here. David's gone now, but doesn't anybody else think that David and Leonard look like brothers?
I never thought, never occurred.
Next time you see them together on the screen, have a look, see what you think.
Have you been, Leonard?
Quite fine. Yeah, actually, some days ago, something funny happened. I was cleaning the kitchen and I was listening to some random playlist, so I didn't know what song would be next. And then, there was a tango song, which is like very nostalgic, very melancholic, like, and super dramatic, like the lyrics and so on. And I think I had avoided tango because, I don't know, it was not so difficult. It was not so easy for me to leave Argentina. So there was like, that was also something that was not really a decision. It was just like, it just happened. And before it took me a long time, like to, I thought for a year or 2 years, no, I'm going to stay here and I'm the cool guy who doesn't need his own language and culture and friends and family and so on. But in the end, it was just like maybe, my program that made me go back to Germany, but I'm still sometimes a bit nostalgic about it because, yeah, just like spaces or like pop up in my brain, and it's not really like tourist attractions, but the supermarket, the shop I used to go to, like something like that. And I think I avoided a bit like listening to this music because yeah, it can touch a side in me that is a bit like melancholic, but then it just happened. And then, yeah, of course, this nostalgia is like a story. It's an idealization of the past. And actually, I had not been that happy in the last year or last 2 years in Buenos Aires. And then I was like completely clear that it was a story, like an idealized story, but I found it very beautiful. I allowed it to myself. And then I was really crying, but it had something super ridiculous as well because I was like cleaning the kitchen and then like this tragic, super, yeah, also the lyrics are always like, I mean, you think, oh my God, this is really your tragic idea, like I will love you until death and stuff like that. It's like super, super exaggerated and also a bit macho, maybe, but it was okay just to, yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the poetry of this exaggerated tragedy, and that translated also to my idealizing the past about Buenos Aires and allowing myself to cry while I was like cleaning the kitchen.
Yeah,
And I
that
found
sounds
it
great. Yeah.
quite interesting because it's like, yeah, maybe it's like watching a movie and it's a movie, but maybe you still like shed some tears and
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
allow yourself to do that, and it's enjoyable, but you know that it's not reality.
Well, it's yes, I get what you're saying. It's not
But
reality, but
somehow
it
there
is
is
reality.
something
Yeah,
real to it because you cry, you know.
absolutely,
So
that's right. It's real. Yeah, and isn't it amazing how a song can do that? It kind of can be.
mm,
You can relive a whole lifetime in a matter of a couple of minutes almost, and that
yeah.
brilliant absorption. Yeah, I love that. I love that. No filters anymore. Up comes
mm.
all the stuff, and out it comes, and yeah, great. Love it. Yeah.
Yeah, but also it showed me a bit like some stories are really beautiful, but I still know they are stories, you know? So,
Yes. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
I think,
uh,
Lennart, that was a wonderful description of the fact that we're still human. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're human beings, and emotions and things happen. Like once in a while, thoughts of my father will come up. Yeah, he passed away, what, 10 years ago now? Or he died 10 years ago. And that makes me sad. You know, a little tear. I miss him.
Yeah.
You know, now whether that's, well, it's a story, yeah, because it's my memories and thoughts and stuff. But I don't want to dismiss that or lose that. Yeah, it's just a beautiful part of the experience that we're having. You know, so that's wonderful. Yeah, don't lose that. That's amazing. You know.
Well, it opens up another reality here, and I don't mean to set anybody off onto searching or seeking with it, but let me tell you, it's all stories. All the way down, there's nothing but stories. Everything that we experience as reality comes from a story. And it's fucking amazing. It is. It's really brilliant stuff. Absolutely brilliant stuff, you know. And for those people who are suffering, you can just say, well, my stories are better than your stories. That's all. Not that you can choose which stories come up, but there they are. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes in this group, or also in Pernilla's group, um, yeah, sometimes scientific facts are kind of used to give evidence to certain things. And then, yeah, it's a story as well. I mean, it
Yeah. Sure.
depends to which story you are more inclined. I mean, maybe one person would click more with science and the other one more with Buddhism, or I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
that's what. Yes.
yeah, for example, recently I looked through like all the spiritual book that I had read, and in Germany there is a service that you can just like scan the code of this book, and then it tells you like how much they will give you, yeah, when you sell it. And they just come around to your place and get it and give you the money, and you don't have to do a lot. So I wanted to get rid of all those books that I read, but there are still some that I enjoy to read. And yeah, for example, uh, maybe you might know Ashtavakra Gita. It's like Advaita literature, but now I'm reading it, but I read it as poetry. It's like spiritual poetry or even like fantasy literature or something like that. But there are some things that kind of resonate with me in my experience. So I find it just nice that, wow, okay, in the fourth century there they already experienced this kind of things.
Yeah.
I find it really fascinating, but there are also other things that I think, yeah, okay, that's really a story, like for example, this yeah, then it's like always like this you are awareness and stuff like that. And yeah, I can still, but I still can see, well, maybe it's just poetry in as it's a metaphor in a certain time in a certain culture, but yeah, I still enjoy reading it once in a while. Like,
You touched a memory for me too. I can remember getting a very, I suppose you'd say, a spiritual feeling reading some of the Buddhist stuff because of the way they used language. Yeah. And of course, then you realize that all that's a translation and an interpretation anyway, So you have the Pali version as opposed to the whatever, the other versions and so on. But yeah, they were very poetic in the way. But even early English stuff is often, presented in a way that's got a poeticness about it. Shakespeare, for example, did that as well. Yeah.
but what I like about Shakespeare is that he can be very vulgar as well.
Yeah. Well, we could say that real. Yeah.
Tell you where this took me, Leonard, when, as Vince says, it's stories all the way down. And the moment that really struck home for me was when I realized that the story I thought I was true is also just a story. Like, for instance, I'm not a religious man. So all those stories about religion mean nothing to me. Oh, they're obviously not true from my perspective. Yeah. But then, there could, then there's like, I make a slight joke about it, but, I don't believe the brain is a receiver and that an alien is sending messages into my head to make me do things. Yeah. That's another story. Yeah. So I can make up loads and loads of stories. But then I realized the story that there's a brain up here and there's neurons and those neurons are firing and that's all what's making this happen. Well, of course, that story's true because that's the one I believe, you know, and I can't quite get rid of that. You know what I mean? I still tend to think that story is the one I want to go for,
Yeah.
but it's still a story in amongst all the others.
That reminded me, I've seen this great meme somewhere, or probably on Facebook or something, that said, you know, there's 527 gods in the world, but don't you worry, the one you believe in is the right one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, gentlemen and ladies, enjoy the rest of your day. I have to go off and start living for a life. See you soon.
Have to
Bye
go
all.
back to the so-called real world.
Enjoy
Exactly.
your day with life.
Thank you. Bye.
Good to see you, James. Yeah. Hmm.
I have a question.
Yes, of course.
Do you think our attitudes or our beliefs create reality or affect the situations that happens to us? Like, is like playing the victim put me in situations that makes me a victim more?
Yes.
Like that.
Yes, it depends on how far you go with that one, whether that, but yes, certainly how your demeanor will affect those around you, and what you expect to happen will affect your experience of things. So yes, your attitude does influence. But it can be more technically accurate to say it influences your perception or your interpretation of what's happening.
I would say your attitudes are your situation.
Well,
Like it's the same. I mean,
It's more like my attitude is like the belief or predisposition to whatever my relationship to life.
yeah, there is again, I guess you can say it's story, but psychology recognizes that there is this thing that we call confirmation bias, and that is that we do tend, you could almost use the label a self-fulfilling prophecy, so that we do tend to seek out for confirmation of things we believe. And so we'll ignore things that don't fit that, and we will focus on things that do fit that. So there's an influence there, comes from attitude. Certainly a victim. I mean, if there is such a thing, but let's say that we imagine that there's somebody who is in victim mode. They will, of course, look for reasons for that to be the case, and they will see that ahead of reasons to not feel that. So they will confirm things for them. And which is one of the really big things that comes to mind, that it's one of the huge things that comes with this waking up, and that is that our attitude towards things does seem to produce a much more amenable experience in life. Now, even to the point where, like serendipity. I don't know if serendipity is a thing, but it's a great description for you need a parking place, you find a parking place. It happens that there is one there, but it's like, that's a pretty gross example. But if you've got the right attitude, you're much more likely to notice one. Whereas if you've got the wrong attitude, if you go, well, I can never find a parking place, you look for all the parking places that are filled rather than the ones that are empty and inviting. So yeah, I think it does play a big part in your experience of life. But again, it's not something you can choose, is it? It's something that happens.
I have an attachment to having like a negative outlook on life and like a pessimistic view. And right now it feels more painful to play this character anymore. Or before it was like my habitual coping mechanism. Now it's so painful to actually believe these thoughts of being victim or being, and it's like I'm questioning now, like, are these even my beliefs? And how much it cost me to believe this? And I feel this attachment, like I have to believe this way. I have to see this way. And I don't know why. Like it's...
Yeah. Now, that not knowing why is okay. You don't need to know why, unless it's something that refuses to shift. But the mere fact of what you're describing to me is that it is changing, right? So before, when you were fully invested in that way of being, there was no other alternative. That was the way life was, and there was no questioning of it. Now, the mere fact that it feels the way it feels, and it's like you've seen an alternative. You've seen that it doesn't have to be that way. And so that makes it worse in a way, because now there is an apparent different way to be. It sounds very much like there is a shift happening in this area. But still, the old way hangs on a little bit.
Yeah, it's so painful. It's like something is...
Yeah. And it was a different kind of pain when it was the only way you could be. Now the pain is perhaps even more acute because there is a possibility of it not being there. When it is there, it's worse in a way.
Yeah, it feels like having the wrong cue or
Yes,
something
absolutely.
that doesn't fit.
Yeah, you're driving down the highway on the wrong side of the road. Yeah.
But it's not clear for me the other perspective. Maybe that's what is making it difficult. I don't know.
Yeah. And recognizing that it's not something you can force. It's not something you can do, but it is something that is happening. That means you can kind of relax and just be patient and watch the change. Not something you can force.
It's strange because I have like several friends, female friends, who had been in toxic relationships for many years. And they told me about it. And of course, yeah, I mean, as a good friend, I would say, well, I mean, if it's so awful to be with this person, then maybe you should think about a separation. But then it never happened, or it extended like over more and more years. And it's really a phenomenon. I don't know why, but yeah. But I guess, I mean, what people know and what they are used to is less, yeah, gives them less fear as to do the step into the unknown,
Yes.
something new. And I think that's the same about addictions and about, yeah, I mean, I also have this tendency to have a negative outlook onto the world, but it's much less now. I mean, or I would say I kind of don't identify with those thoughts so much anymore. But yeah, I think it's just a habit. It's
Yep.
and the thing is that when it clicked for me was like I can I can have the same thoughts 1,000 times, but that doesn't make it more true, you know? I mean, I can tell you a wrong information like 1,000 times, but it doesn't mean that you're going to believe that.
Yeah, often with it's really frequent people in abusive relationships, if they do get out of that relationship, will very, very frequently get back into another one. Yeah. But before that happens, they often get out and back in, get out and back in the same one. Yes, as you say.
And I think, I mean, those 3 female friends who have been in toxic relationship, like one after the other. Yeah, it's an interpretation, but they also had a very difficult childhood. So
And
I
it would
think
be likely to be an abusive one too.
yeah, sometimes I guess it's also a form of diversion, you know, when you have a partner who treats you like shit, then you can still blame your horrible boyfriend for your problems, and you don't have to look into um, your own feelings.
Yeah,
And
it's hard. Yeah, it can be an avoidance thing. Yeah. So it may well be, I mean, these are just stories, but it may well be that people are trying to fix the relationship that they had as a child, and they spend their whole life trying to fix it, but of course they never do because they just repeat it. But who knows? Yeah, that's I don't know that one. Yeah. But yeah, I would say most people who are in an abusive relationship have then the shadow work is required for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, my laptop just said it's going to run out of power. So I'll take that as a time to wind up. Yeah. I can do a few more minutes before it shuts down on me, but if it does shut down, it'll just be gone. So yeah, be aware of that. Yeah. Hmm. Okay, well we will wind up then. All right. Thank you everybody. It's been another good one. Oh, that was really excellent, Ramiz. Lots of really good stuff happened there. And others will get value from that too. So yeah. So bye everybody. Bye Bianca. Bye Louise.
bye.